Caitlin Clark officially done for the 2025 WNBA season, as she and the Fever announced on social media. The Fever and Clark saying that she tried to get back on the floor. It appears that she just ran out of time, not able to get enough confidence back in her body as the season wraps up and the playoffs are likely about to begin.
The basketball world just witnessed the most devastating announcement in WNBA history. Caitlin Clark, the golden goose who single-handedly transformed women's basketball into a cultural phenomenon, has officially confirmed what fans feared most. Her 2025 season is over. Not just over, completely destroyed by a cascade of injuries that reads like a medical nightmare. And the worst part? The signs were there all along, but the league, the team, and everyone involved chose to look the other way while their biggest star's body broke down in real time. Just hours ago, Clark took to social media with words that cut deeper than any defeat on the court. Disappointed isn't a big enough word to describe how I am feeling. This isn't just another injury report. This is the collapse.
For the remainder of the 2025 season, something we all think we knew was coming after what Stephanie White said earlier today. We couldn't be too sure until we see it for ourselves. And with this announcement from the GOAT's mouth herself, Caitlin Clark won't be returning this season, nor if the Indiana Fever make
everything the WNBA had built around one transcendent player. And the aftermath is already sending shockwaves through an entire league that gambled everything on her return. The Indiana Fever and Clark's joint announcement dropped like a bomb across social media, confirming what insiders had whispered for weeks, but nobody wanted to believe. After months of rehabilitation, after countless hours in the gym, after promises of evaluations and hope for a comeback, Clark's body simply couldn't take any more. The confidence never returned. The pain never fully subsided. And now, as the playoffs loom and the Fever desperately cling to their postseason dreams, they must face the unthinkable reality of moving forward without the player who put them on the map. But here's where this story gets truly disturbing. Clark's sophomore season didn't just end.
Punch that basically encompasses an entire season of them. The Fever have lost so many players to injury, but obviously none bigger than Clark. And there was such a wait for this second season after her magnificent rookie season. And then, the anticipation of her possibly coming back, only for that not to happen, takes a lot of air out of the room, obviously takes a lot of energy out of the fans, and is a devastating blow for not just the Fever. And
badly. It unraveled almost from the very beginning, creating a timeline of destruction that becomes more alarming with each passing detail. In May, before the season even truly began, quad tightness forced her to sit out a preseason game. Red flag number 1, completely ignored. By May 24th, just 4 games into what should have been her breakout sophomore campaign, that same left quad betrayed her again, straining so severely she missed multiple games while the team scrambled to manage without their centerpiece. The pattern was already emerging, but nobody wanted to acknowledge it. When one part of an athlete's body compensates for another injured area, it creates a domino effect that can destroy an entire season. That's exactly what happened to Clark. As her quad struggled to heal properly, the stress shifted to surrounding muscles.
Well, because Caitlin Clark fans, I want to say Fever fans, but at this point, so many of you, including myself, has lost faith in everybody involved in leadership and in management and coaching. We've just sort of, I got to tell you, I don't have any more real good things to say about the Fever organization as of now, because I will contend that they have known this was going to happen, and they did not want to tell it.
And by late June, a left groin strain joined the growing list of problems plaguing the league's brightest star. Then came July 15th, the moment everything collapsed. In the final minute of a game against the Connecticut Sun, with Clark putting the team on her back just like she'd done countless times before, her right groin gave out. The injury was so severe, so definitively season-ending, that everything else became academic. But the medical nightmares weren't finished. During her rehabilitation process, As if the basketball gods are adding insult to injury, Clark developed a bone bruise in her left ankle. The final cruel twist in a season that had already taken everything from her. The numbers tell a story of complete devastation. 13 games. That's all Clark managed to play in what was supposed to be her sophomore breakthrough season. 13 games out of an entire WNBA season, averaging 16.5 points, 8.8 assists, and 5 rebounds.
Clark, a two-time All-Star and the 2024 WNBA Rookie of the Year, has been sidelined suffering a right groin injury during the Fever's 87-77 win over the Connecticut Sun on July 15th. If you guys remember that game, Caitlin Clark put the team on her back in the winding minutes to give the Indiana Fever that lead. Clark also suffered a bone bruise at a later date.
Per game, in the limited time her broken down body allowed her to compete. For a player who had redefined what was possible in women's basketball, who had brought unprecedented attention and revenue to the league, 13 games felt like a cosmic joke. Throughout this entire nightmare, the Indiana Fever's communication strategy became increasingly suspicious and, frankly, insulting to the intelligence of their fan base. Week after week, month after month, they labeled Clark's status as day-to-day, using language specifically designed to maintain hope and, more importantly, sustain ticket sales. This was a medical optimism.
Throughout this time, doing everything possible to recover and return to the court, but ultimately, time is not on our side, said Indiana Fever COO and GM Amber Cox. While we will continue working with Kaylin and provide her with every resource we have available, there is not enough time left in our season for her to safely return, and her long-term health and well-being remains our top priority. We are looking forward to having her back at full strength to start the 2026 season. Clark appeared in 13 games during the regular season, averaging 16.5 points, 8.8 assists, and 5 rebounds per game, while helping lead the team to the 2025 WNBA Commissioners.
Calculated marketing designed to keep sold-out arenas filling seats, while Clark's body continued breaking down behind closed doors. Coach Stephanie White's contradictory statements only added fuel to the growing fire of mistrust. While publicly discussing evaluations and progress during West Coast trips, she simultaneously admitted Clark hadn't been doing much contact work, a detail that should have immediately raised red flags about the true severity of her condition. The disconnect between public messaging and private reality became so obvious that fans began questioning every...
And this is what Caitlin wrote. I had hoped to share a better update, but I will not be returning to play this season. I spent hours in the gym every day with the singular goal of getting back out there. Disappointed isn't a big enough word to describe how I am feeling. I want to thank everyone who had my back through all the uncertainty. This has been incredibly frustrating, but even in the bad, there is good. The way fans continue to show up for me in the Fever brought me so much joy and important perspective. I'm so proud of how this team has only gotten stronger through the adversity this year. Now it's time to close out the season and claim our spot.
The organization told them. The medical reality was far more sobering than anyone wanted to admit. Sports medicine specialists understand that quad and groin injuries don't heal on the timeline the Fever was suggesting. When an athlete returns too quickly from these types of injuries, their body inevitably compensates by shifting stress to other areas, creating the exact cascade of problems that destroyed Clark's season. It's like patching a leaky pipe without fixing the underlying pressure. Eventually, the system cracks again, and that's precisely what happened. Clark's own words stripped away any remaining illusions about the severity of her situation. In her heartbreaking social media statement, she revealed spending hours in the gym every single day with the singular goal of getting back on the court. The dedication was never in question. The effort was never lacking. But sometimes...
In her rookie season, where she received 20% of all the flagrant fouls in the league, and most of them came from Angel Reese in the Chicago Sky. And these weren't basketball plays. They were not only fouling her, but they were getting up, laughing about it, laughing about Caitlin Clark getting assaulted. Any other work environment, people go to...
No matter how much heart and determination an athlete possesses, the body simply cannot overcome the accumulated damage. I spent hours in the gym every day with the singular goal of getting back out there, Clark wrote, her raw honesty hitting harder than any official press release ever could. Disappointed isn't a big enough word to describe how I am feeling. These weren't the words of someone who hadn't tried hard enough or someone looking for excuses. These were the words of a broken athlete who had given everything and watched her body betray her dreams. But Clark's injury story
practices. Wow. So we are here now. And what's crazy about all of this is that, guys, this is I'm not going to come on here and say that they're going to lose, because if there was an investigation going into this team, they're not going to lose this investigation. Oh, they're going to win. Whoever is representing,
not be separated from a much darker narrative that had been building throughout her WNBA career. The systematic failure to protect the league's most valuable asset. The officiating controversy surrounding Clark wasn't just about missed calls or inconsistent whistles. It was about a pattern of physical abuse that many believe directly contributed to her injury-plagued season. The statistics are absolutely staggering and deeply disturbing. During her rookie season, Clark absorbed 20% of all flagrant fouls committed in the entire WNBA. 20%. For one player in a league with dozens of...
Caitlin Clark was taking all the hits. Caitlin Clark was taking all the abuse. But this year they've added Sophie Cunningham. She gets more flagrant fouls on her than anybody in the league besides Caitlin Clark. And Aaliyah Boston, she's been taking hits as well. But the worst thing is the consistency. So they don't call flagrant fouls, or most of the time, Caitlin Clark could be held for an entire game at a time.
Talented athletes. One player was targeted for 1/5 of the most severe fouls the league tracks. This wasn't coincidence. It was systematic targeting, and much of it came from Angel Reese and the Chicago Sky, who seemed to take perverse pleasure in their aggressive approach to defending Clark. The video evidence was undeniable and deeply unsettling. Opponents weren't just fouling Clark, they were laughing about it, getting up from hard, non-basketball plays with smiles on their faces, as if intentionally hurting the league's biggest star was somehow amusing. In any other professional environment, this behavior
13 times, and Aaliyah Boston can't play 20 minutes in a game without being on the bench in foul trouble. That's another problem that we're dealing with. But like I said, this year, it's not just Caitlin Clark. If you wear that Indiana Fever jersey, consider it done. The refs are not going to be fair, and they are going to cheat and do whatever it takes to do.
It would be considered assault. In the WNBA, it was somehow allowed to continue game after game, week after week. The officiating inconsistency became so obvious that social media exploded with examples of Clark taking hard hits without protection. Nationally televised games repeatedly featured moments where she absorbed contact that would have sent other players to the free throw line, but the whistle remained silent. Meanwhile, opponents like Breanna Stewart and Aya Wilson received significantly more favorable treatment from officials, creating a clear double standard that put Clark at a competitive and physical disadvantage. This pattern of inadequate protection extended beyond Clark to other Fever players, suggesting a systematic bias rather than isolated incidents. Sophie Cunningham and Aaliyah Boston found themselves receiving an unusually high number of flagrant fouls and facing similar officiating inconsistencies. It became clear that wearing an Indiana Fever jersey made players targets for both opponents and seemingly indifferent officials. The commercial implications of the communication breakdown cannot be ignored. While the Fever maintained Clark's day-to-day status, sold-out road games proceeded as scheduled, arenas expanded capacity to meet demand, and ticket prices soared based on the promise of seeing the league's biggest star return to action. When Clark was officially ruled out, the refund requests began pouring in from fans who felt deliberately misled about her actual availability. This wasn't just poor communication. It was a calculated decision to prioritize commercial interests over honest health updates. Stephanie White later admitted she had known for weeks, possibly a month, where Clark's season was heading. The decision to maintain the day-to-day charade while privately understanding the severity of her condition represents a fundamental breach of trust with a fan base that had invested emotionally and financially in Clark's recovery. The credibility crisis facing the WNBA extends far beyond one injured player. The league had positioned Clark as the face of a new era in women's basketball, using her popularity to drive unprecedented growth in ratings, attendance, and cultural relevance. Simultaneously, they allowed her to be physically targeted without adequate protection, creating the very conditions that contributed to her injury-plagued season. The contradiction between marketing Clark as a generational talent while enabling her systematic abuse on the court exposed the league's confused priorities. For the Indiana Fever, Clark's absence transforms their playoff push from a celebration into a desperate survival mission. Currently sitting at 21 wins and 20 losses, they're clinging to the 8th and final playoff spot with just 3 games remaining. The Los Angeles Sparks lurk only a game and a half behind, meaning every possession down the stretch could determine whether Indiana extends their season or watches the playoffs from home. The supporting cast that must now carry this burden includes Kelsey Mitchell, who has become the team's offensive engine, providing veteran leadership and clutch scoring when games hang in the balance. Aaliyah Boston, the 2-time All-Star, anchors the paint with rebounding, defense, and the kind of interior presence that creates opportunities for teammates. Role players like Lexie have stepped up with perimeter defense and physicality, while Sophie Cunningham provides shooting and the toughness necessary for playoff basketball. Strategic moves by the front office, including hardship signings of experienced players like Odyssey Sims, Chloe Bibby, Ari McDonald, and Sud Petty, have provided crucial depth when the rotation stretched thin due to injuries and foul trouble. These weren't glamorous signings designed to generate headlines, but practical additions that gave Coach Stephanie White the flexibility to keep her team competitive despite the absence of their cornerstone player. The accountability questions extend throughout the WNBA's leadership structure. Critics are demanding answers from Commissioner Kathy Engelbert and the Players Association executive leadership about why the league's most valuable asset was allowed to absorb such systematic physical punishment. The calls for resignation and investigation reflect a fan base that has lost faith not just in individual organizations, but in the league's ability to protect its own interests. Looking toward the future, Indiana Fever COO and GM Amber Cox emphasized that Clark's long-term health remains the organization's top priority, with expectations of having her back at full strength for the 2026 season. The commitment to recovery over short-term competitive gains represents a philosophical shift that should have happened much earlier in Clark's injury timeline. The broader implications of this season extend far beyond playoff races or individual statistics. Clark's injury saga has exposed fundamental problems with how the WNBA handles player safety, communication transparency, and the protection of its most valuable assets. The league's credibility, which had been building steadily thanks largely to Clark's transcendent talent and popularity, now faces serious questions about whether it can be trusted to prioritize player welfare over commercial interests. As the basketball world processes this devastating news, one thing becomes crystal clear. Caitlin Clark's lost season represents more than just a talented player's bad luck with injuries. It's a cautionary tale about what happens when a league fails to protect its biggest stars, when commercial interests override honest communication, and when systematic problems are ignored until they explode into full-scale disasters. The question now isn't just whether the Fever can make the playoffs without their superstar, but whether the WNBA can rebuild the trust it shattered along the way.